One of my first phones ever was a Motorola. It was one of those with actually something you had to put a thing in front of the keys and you have to put the antenna out and then you call. It wasn't a smartphone, it was way before that, but it was a Motorola. And over the years I've had multiple Motorola phones, and now Motorola was kind enough to send me one of their newest budget phones, the G30. So I've had this phone for about a week now, and I've been using it as my full-time phone. There are some good things, some improvable things, but overall, what is this entry-level phone worth? What can it do for you? Alright, so here we go. First of all, of course, we have the design, which I actually really like. I love the fact that it's a one version of plastic type of build. So it's not different kind of frame and then back. No, it's like one piece. And of course, I would have loved aluminum or metallic, because I really love those frames. They're very strong, but we're talking about an entry-level phone of around 200 euros here. So the fact that it's plastic, I don't really care, because I really love the way you hold it. It feels good in my hand, and also it's very strong, so it's very durable. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to say that you have to drop this phone. Don't, because it is still a phone. But still, if it does take a fall, it might survive better than one of the phones that has, say, a ceramic or glass back. Just saying. I love the pearl variant that I have. That's really, it changes color the way you move it in the sunlight. It's very interesting, and people keep on asking me, like, oh, what kind of color is that phone, because it keeps on changing. I really love that. Yes, the camera bump is a bit intruding, so it is a bit there, but again, entry-level phone. So what I do really like is the fact that this has a USB Type-C charger on an entry-level phone. Great. It is a 20-watt charger. It's not that great because it has a 5000 mAh battery, which is awesome. But 20-watt charging with 5000 mAh does mean you'll have to charge for a while. It does, however, have both a micro SD slot and a 3.5mm headphone jack, which are two options I really love. Both for recording audio, for example, with an external mic, but also for photos and videos and transferring them onto different platforms or different phones. Right on top of the power button and the volume rockers, the power button does have a little sort of context to it, so you feel that it's different. But on top of the volume rockers is the Google Assistant button. And if you use Google Assistant a lot, then that's very handy. But I personally think it is a thing that Google Assist's entry-level phones have on their phones. A dedicated Google Assistant button that you cannot remap. If you could remap, would be awesome, but you can't. So yeah, of course you can download an app for that, but it should be an option that's really in the phone to give you the personal option, you know? If we're then going to the screen, I gotta say I love this entry-level screen. It is an IPS LCD screen with up to 720p, so it's not HD or something. It's not the best there is, but the screen is 90 Hz, which gives watching anything such a great difference than watching on an entry-level phone with about 60 Hz. Because you really do see the difference. I also really like the colors. You have in the menu, you have different options also on how to display the colors, whether they be vivid or they be natural. And there are 3 choices. You can just choose between them, whatever you like. There are a lot of options in the menu also. Of course, this is an entry-level phone, so I have to say when you're in direct sunlight, it is pretty difficult to see the screen sometimes. It goes up to 468 nits in auto brightness, but I gotta say I don't really see that, because sometimes I'm really stressing to see something in direct sunlight or in even just sunlight somewhere. And of course, it would help if at that time you have it on light mode and not on dark mode, because that also really does make a difference. But I like having my phones on dark mode because it's better for the battery and it's better for your eyes. So the fact this 6.5-inch screen has a 20:9 aspect ratio makes it very easy to hold in your hands. It's strange that it's a very big difference between a 19:9 or a 19.5:9 aspect ratio. A 20:9 really is one of my more favorite. I love 21:9 because then it's not that thick. It's very thin. But I gotta say I like 20x9 as well, because when you're watching something you get the full screen, you can really zoom it into full screen and you don't lose anything because of sidebars or something. And still it's very sharp. And also it's very funny to see that the image when I see it and the image when you see it when I capture it on video, there's a difference. It's actually more brighter when I capture it on video, but the image is pretty clear. And for an entry-level phone, I gotta say, I am actually impressed, because I've had entry-level phones in the past to try out and they had worse screens and settings. On the downside, I do have to say I am not that much a fan of a dewdrop, raindrop selfie camera, because I think it just takes too much away from the screen, because it's in the middle, it's all around the camera. It's not my favorite. I love to see left top corner camera cut holes, things like that. I noticed that when I was watching something on this screen, from time and again, like every minute or so, I just checked to the left to see what's there. And it was the camera, the dewdrop camera. So yeah, for me, not that much a fan. The Motorola G30 has a bottom firing speaker, just one. The sound from it is pretty decent, but one, it's not stereo, and two, it is an entry-level phone, so the sound is alright if that's all you have. But for audio and video and anything, I would just advise to cast it away via Bluetooth or casting or whatever to any other device. I have to say though, when calling on speakerphone, sound is actually pretty good. Not there when there's a lot of wind, because then you just don't hear very much anymore. But anything besides that, people around you or something, not a problem. If we're then going to take a look at software and battery, for me personally, I like phones that have Android One, because it is a near stock experience. There are some apps pre-installed, but they're mostly Google apps, which I use anyway, and if I don't, I can just either delete them or disable them. So that's okay. The phone has a Snapdragon 662, which is a pretty good media chip. And you can choose the refresh rate of the screen between 90 and 60 in auto. I had it on 90 the whole time just to check out, see how it went. And I do have to say that did take a fall on the battery, but it does make it so much more better to see. And also when you have it on 90 Hz refresh rate, going through social media, swiping through social apps, or watching content, it just looks so good. When opening games like Pokemon Go, I do have to say I had definitely some lag all the time when I played it. Not on all the screens, but mostly on the body screen. It just kept on freezing there, and it then doesn't matter how often I try, it does the same every time. So it's not that good on all games, but games like Jumanji, like a running game, or Toon Blast, a simple Candy Crush kind of game, absolutely no problem, because this is an entry-level phone, so it's made for not that heavy games. Because it's Android One, it comes with all the Android features, for example, digital well-being, which is very good for keeping track of your usage of the phone, of software, of apps, anything. And because it's a Motorola, it comes with all the very handy Motorola features, like we all know, of course, the flick for torch, or rotate your wrist twice for the camera. Battery wise, we're looking at a 5000 mAh battery charged with a USB Type-C. A 20-watt charger is in the box, and like I said, it's good, but it does take a long time charging, at least about 2.5 hours before it's full. And it wasn't that great. It wasn't more than an actual full day and then a bit, but that's also probably because I had it on 90 Hz refresh rate the whole time. That does take some impact on the battery. If we're then looking at a few downsides of the phone and or the software, I do have to say that when opening apps, sometimes it takes a few seconds before they open, because especially when you have it lying by your side for a while and you haven't touched it and you're then opening up Instagram or any other app, it will take like a second or two before it's actually opening the app itself. And that's because we're talking about an entry-level phone with a mid-range chip. It's pretty good, but it can be a bit slower, so don't expect flagship qualities from that. There's also not really an always-on display function. I mean, there's a peak display, which if you grab the phone, If you lift up the phone, then it will show you, and if you have a notification new coming in, it will show you, but then it will just go black and you just really have to pick up the phone. What I would have loved to see was, I had the first Motorola Z Play and that had wave to wake. And if I just waved my hand over it, it will just show me the notifications and the time for a few seconds. I love that function. I don't need an always on display if I have that. That was awesome. So I was sad to see that they didn't bring that back. And then here we are looking at the camera. Of course, cameras are the most important thing of any smartphone these days almost. And here we have 4 cameras on the back and 1 on the front. On the back we have the 64 megapixel main camera. There's an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera. And the third and fourth camera are 2 megapixel depth camera and macro camera. And I was actually expecting not to be that much impressed with the macro camera, but that turned out to be one of my favorites. And you can actually record video also with the macro camera, which was, I found very interesting and very, very funny to play around with. So yeah, I think usually I just love the main camera and things and don't really use the rest that much. But I have to say on this phone, I really enjoyed the macro camera. And also the 64 camera makes fine photos. At night, with less light though, a little less. So yeah, it's not my favorite at night, even with night vision, which I think brings out the light too much. Like it's a little bit, it's trying too hard and it's not really natural anymore. The ultra wide is okay, it's just a little bit darker in color, I think. So that's not really my favorite as well, but it is nice that they have it. The depth camera for me is a total loss. I've shot multiple portrait shots, but I have to say, honestly, I found it a bit lacking. It doesn't really understand where the depth comes in and where the depth should go. So yeah, not really one of my favorites. But all in all, for an entry-level phone, I gotta say the setup is okay. And then we're looking for the front. There's a 13 megapixel camera on the front, and that's just not really my favorite. It makes photos that are alright. Once again, portrait photos, yeah, no, they just don't really do that much. But the option's there, and if you don't really use it that much, but the option is still there, then it's okay for someone who doesn't take a lot of selfies. I mean, I don't, so I don't really care, but I just had to try it for the review, of course. Yeah, so that was my review of the Motorola G30 after using it full-time for about a week. And I have to say, for an entry-level phone, I was really surprised. Yes, the battery could have been better, but I had it on 90 Hz display the whole time. And of course, for an entry-level phone, that is pushing it a bit. Battery was okay, it was a day easy and then some, but not that much more. And for a 5000 mAh battery, I would have liked to see more. It is an entry-level phone with a 90 Hz display. You don't see that a lot at this price point. So that is awesome. I love the screen. I actually really love the screen. Don't love the fact that it's not that bright, possibility for going outside, but you have to cut corners here or there. And I really love the overall look of the screen. Love the design. What I did for 200 euros. Love the design. Love the color scheme. Love the setup. Beautiful. Actually really love that. I think this is a phone for someone who wants an entry-level phone with a good battery, a decent camera, who just wants their phone to do all the general things, because I did social media, I did working, email, I did watching media content, just not that heavy games, because it is an entry-level phone. So it is a Snapdragon 662, it's pretty good, but it's not great. So for an entry-level user, I really recommend this phone because I actually really like it. So I'm curious to see if you like this phone. Are you interested in trying it out or something, or going to get it, or do you have it? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And I'm going to keep working now on a different video. I will post this video and a video of the camera as well also. But watch for new content coming soon. Hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe. Bye.